No video. Okay, Zoom session should be going. Let me share my screen here. Help me remember that some people even wrote it down on the back and I still forget. Okay. So, some things in that video that are important. Besides having Bill Gates and Will.i.am tell you that you should learn the code, one thing that's really important in there was looking at Val's home office. Did you see it? When they went flying by, did you see all that food and all that free stuff? It's pretty neat. I have a former student who worked for Apple in an internship for a few months, and he's from Carthage. He's from Southwest Missouri, just like you guys. Started out coding in classes with me, just like you guys, and so he ended up working for Apple. He didn't stay because his wife hated Southern California. She didn't like living on the beach. She wanted to be by her family in Southwest Missouri. So now every few months she posts something on Facebook like, what was wrong with me? What was I thinking? You know, we don't know. But, you know, that's how people are. But anyhow, he said every day he went to work at Apple, his wife, because they got married right as they went out there. So it was kind of like a honeymoon for him to go to work out there. And so he said every day he went to work, his wife made him a lunch because she was at home. And he would carry his nice brown paper bag to work, and he was happy, and he ate his lunch at his desk. And about 2 weeks before his internship was over, he saw this giant cafeteria, and he asked somebody about it. What is that? Because he's a hard worker kind of guy. You know, he wasn't the kind of guy that was out just socializing. But they said, well, that's the Apple cafeteria. You can eat in there anytime. And he said, oh, wow, well, you know, we've been trying to save money because, you know, we just got married and all. And they said, well, it's all free. And so there he was 2 weeks before it was all over. He found out that all this food had been free the whole time. So I guess he should have asked, but that's all right. The thing is, you guys can do this. When they say they're looking for talent, they're not kidding. And they're pulling people from all over the country still yet right now, trying to get coders that are actually qualified and that can do a good job. So one thing that's exciting here in town that I've noticed just this semester is Jack Henry. Jack Henry is a company that began in Monette, you know, about 30 miles from Springfield, and they create and sell banking software. So their software is to mid-level banks. So they don't sell their software to Bank of America, more, you know, like Commerce or Argus probably has Walmart software, but with some of those middle of the road banks, and they have a lot of customers. They're very successful. And in my C#1 classes, I have a very large number of people that are already working there. So we're really excited to see that Jack Henry has started noticing the students that are coming out of OTC, and it looks like they'll try to grab people up before they even get through some of those programming classes so that they can get them to work and already have them. So let me know if that's something that you want to talk to them, and I will show you their website. And we never know how things like that are going to work, how, you know, how many people they're going to want, or any of that kind of stuff. Okay, so that was the next thing. What is programming in your notes that you should have? So I jump around a little bit, but I think it's exciting to see that you're going into a field that has a really, really high demand right now, and it has some really, really high pay. We also talked about the program development cycle. So this is one of those things that you will see pretty much in almost every one of your CIS classes, because it's just an important concept. And then we were looking at pseudocode. So as the power was going out and different things were happening, maybe beforehand, we looked at this pseudocode for making a cup of tea. And we saw it was just a list of instructions. That's all pseudocode is just an English-like program plan. So it's not written in any sort of coding language or anything like that, just a step-by-step list of instructions. This pseudocode is just for making tea. So it's pretty high level, it's pretty general, right? And we could see pseudocode that could be high level like this, all the way down to really, really detailed pseudocode. Now we saw that we have to figure out where we're going to save data in memory of the computer. if I'm going to make some tea, my memory, I'm just going to keep track in my memory of how many sugars I want, right? I've got that. It's stored in there somewhere. I'm going to access it when I make tea, and I'm going to know how many sugars I want. But if we were asking somebody else, we thought, well, we would have to ask them how many sugars they want. And when they answered, we would have to save that data in a variable somewhere in the computer's memory, right? Because it's got to be able to keep track of things too. Well, when we're saving things in the computer's memory, we save it in variables. And we saw some rules about our variable names. So we've got those. And we looked at some examples. I'm going to go past these real fast because you guys already figured all those out. That's okay. We talked about variables that hold data that doesn't change. And then really quickly, we were looking at the number of songs pseudocode. And our pseudocode here is really short. We started out with 2 lines. We said, when we write pseudocode for our book, because pseudocode is just an English-like thing, it doesn't really have a lot of rules, but our book has some ideas. So we'll use the ideas of our book. We're going to use this command write to say we want to display something on the screen. So when we write the message, enter the number of songs you wish to purchase today, that's going to be written to the screen. When we write this string, we have to have everything that we want written to the screen enclosed within double quotes. And then we're going to read whatever the user types in with this input statement. And we're going to save what they type into a variable named songs. Okay, so our input prompts. We saw a prompt is just some sort of message to a user. Then when we input, we always have to specify the variable that we want to hold that data in the computer's memory. In this example, we ask the user for 2 numbers. So we have 2 input statements. And we say we're going to save the first number they typed in a variable named number 1. And we're going to save the second variable they type in a variable named number 2. Now, in our revised pseudocode, this is where everybody was like, what, last time? Because there's more we need to look at. We can add more to our pseudocode. So we started out with just these 2 lines, but what if we want to take the number of songs they typed in and multiply that by 99 cents to say, well, it's 99 cents a song, so you're going to spend 99 cents times the number of songs you wanted to write, or buy, sorry, and then we're going to write out the answer. Ahead got ahead. So we saw real quick that if our price is 99 cents and we multiply 99 cents times 74 songs, we would get a price of $73.26. Well, let's back up and look at some more of that. First of all, we used an assignment statement where we set the dollar price. In set, again, is not a coding command, but it's a keyword that our pseudocode in our book likes to use. And all set means is, I want to change the value of a variable. So in this statement, we're saying, I want to set the variable number x equal to 45. So in this statement, which part of it is the variable name? Sure.
The middle one, number X.
Number X. That's the thing we're wanting to set. Right? what is the value it's going to have? 45. You got it. So when we're done, number x would be equal to 45 with our line of pseudocode. What about this line of code? What's our variable name? Still number x. And what's the value we're going to set it to? 97. Now, one thing, in these two examples, it's easy to see that the variable name has to come on the left side of the equal sign, because it wouldn't make sense for me to say set 97 equal number x, right? But this is true in any sort of statement where I'm assigning a value to a variable. The variable to be updated has to come on the left of the equal sign. So number x, if that's the variable I want to change, it has to come before the equal sign. So if I'm doing like algebra, math type stuff, I have that, what is it, commutative property where it says it doesn't matter what side of the equal sign you have things on. Programming is not that way. It does matter what side of the equal sign you have things on, okay? So to the left of the equal sign is the variable I'm going to change. To the right of the equal sign is what I'm going to change it to. So we saw that one statement was using math. I could set a variable equal to a number. I could set a variable equal to a string like hello world, or I could set a variable equal to the results of a math statement or a math equation. So computers were developed at the very beginning to do math, right? Because we as people would prefer not to do math. We would like somebody else to do it. So we've gone to great lengths to get computers to do math for us. So realize this is one of their strong points. You can get them to do math. So if I want to add two numbers, I just use the plus sign. If I want to subtract, multiplication is the asterisk. Division is the /. Exponentiation is the like caret character. Do you know where that is on the keyboard? Shift 6. So that would be taking 2 to the power of 3. So shift 6 is that caret character, or caret, I don't know, I'm not saying it Frenchy enough. Exponentiation. And then the modulus command is the % sign. Can you look at this? Can you tell me what modulus is? Can you guess? Do you know?
Modulus is another word for the remainder. Remainder in division specifically.
It's very good. And it can be so useful. Because like, look at this statement. 14 modulus 3. It says, oh, your answer is 2. That means if I divide 14 by 3, my remainder is 2. So that means I could use this statement to see if 14 is a multiple of 3, right? Because if my remainder came out to be 0, say, oh, it is a multiple of 3. But we'll use the modulus command for a lot of different things. It can be quite handy. So try to get that one stuck in your head. It's hard to remember at first because it's like a new math statement. So those are our main math statements. Whenever we have a bunch of math put together, a bunch of equations, we have to be concerned about the order of operations or operator precedence. And just like working with algebra or any other math problem, we're going to evaluate that equation based on the PEMDAS memory aid. Is that how you say it? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And you might have heard it a different way, but that's how my students taught me. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And that means parentheses come first, then exponentiation, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And of course, if we have 3 things left that are all the same, like 3 multiplication equations in this one equation, we're going to evaluate left to right.
structure. Can we go back to the modulus status?
Sure.
What is that for?
That's for if you're doing the one reason that it's used often is to decide if a number is even or not, because I could say, take this variable to the modulus of 2. Is the result 0? Oh, if so, it's even. So, but we'll use it a lot, so you'll see some examples. But it's not something that you'd see often in the real world. So it's kind of hard to get a real good feel for it until we start using it. Can you think of any good examples? Yes.
If you're iterating through something and you want to have a sequence of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, while a main counter ticks up. You can just do modulus of that counter and you will get modulus 3 of that counter. I guess it would be 4 actually. And it will give you a sequence of, I guess it would be 3 plus 1. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Get something out of it.
Yeah.
Some looping. I use it most to see if something's even. Lots of use along those lines. And I was a developer for 10 or 15 years and never saw it in the real world. But in the education world, it's available, so we want everybody to know about it. So it might be something that we don't use. Okay, so PEMDAS, operator precedence. Everybody good with that? So what about this one? What's going to happen first?
People subtract 7 and 5 first.
That is one of the ones it'll do first in the 6 plus 2. So our parentheses first. Oh, I didn't keep it, darn it. I should have it in the presentation, but I don't. Okay, so you're right. So these would happen first. We have our 6 plus 2 is 8. 7 minus 5 is 2. This is awful. Let's type it into our Python interpreter so we can be sure. If you go to your start menu and just type py, like for Python, we should see a link to Python on our computers. We're not ready to start coding in Python, but what's neat is this Python interpreter can kind of be used as a big giant calculator. So we get ready to code. So if you click on Python, you should see just a black console type screen like this with 3 greater than signs as your prompt. And what I'm going to do is just type in this equation. Now it's not going to help me figure out what order it happened in, but it is going to tell me what the right answer is. So let's see if we can figure it out. The first thing that should happen is we should have 3 times 6 plus 2 is going to be 8. Divided by 12. Oops, that's a plus. Seven minus 5 to the power of 2 times 3. Okay, so since we already did those first 2 things that have our parentheses, what's going to happen next?
It's going to square the 7 minus 5 equals 2.
Okay. Right there. Backwards writing. Okay, then what?
Next time, so it's multiplying 4 times 3.
Nope.
We'll do 3 times 8 first.
Going to do 3 times 8 first, because why? Left to right. So 24 divided by 12 plus 4 times 3, which is going to be next, right? Our 4 times 3, because that's our other multiplication.
You would reduce the 24/12 to 2 first, because left to right.
2. Okay, so we're coming out saying it's 14. Does Python agree? Oh, it's mad at me. It doesn't like that.
Declare it first.
Well, it's kind of picky about math. So let me type in what we have to do. You don't have to worry about it. I'm going to import math all on one line. Then I'm going to type our equation again. And I'm going to say I want to use the math.pow function. You don't have to worry about this, but I want to see if it comes out right. So even Python doesn't like that caret character, that caret for the power for exponential equations. And Python says, no, no, no. I have this math library that you have to use. So we'll learn all about that. But for right now, it kind of messes up our calculation I wanted to type in. I got to do a lowercase m. But I finally can come out with 14 and say, woohoo, impressive, huh? You only have to worry about a bunch of things you don't know. But don't worry, we're going to get there together. So the power function gave me a little bit of trouble when I tried to type that in Python. But you guys are exactly right on evaluating that math problem. And that's really where we are, is evaluating that math problem. So looks good. Now, when we want to output things in our pseudocode, after we've done some math or maybe changed some values of some variables, we can use the write statement again. When we first wrote out our user prompt at the beginning of our pseudocode, we wrote out a string. So we had it within double quotes. In this example, we want to write out a variable. So we don't put it in double quotes because we want to use the variable name. And sometimes we want our output to look better than just having the output of the amount, so we can add more to it. So in this example, we're going to write out this string, the cost of your purchase is, and then we're going to add the dollar price variable to that output by using the plus sign. When we use the plus sign on a string, that's called concatenation. We're adding two things together. Okay, before we can go any further though, before we can do our own pseudocode, we need to think about those variable data types. We can't just say I want a variable named Bob without specifying what kind of data it's going to contain. So we've seen some strings. A string is anything. A variable that contains letters, numbers, anything. A string can have anything. But a string has to be enclosed within double quotes. Now, if I only have one character, like a Y or an N for a yes or no answer, one character of data can be called a character data type. When we're using the character data type, we only need one quote, a single quote around values. If we're working with numbers, we're either going to have integers or floats for our pseudocode purposes. So an integer is going to be any number that doesn't have a decimal place. It's a whole number. And then a float is going to be any number that does need a decimal part. And then a Boolean is a special type of variable that only has a value of true or false. So let's think about a student. We're going to create a system kind of like Canvas to keep track of student information. So if we're going to keep track of students' first names, what data type should we use? String. String would be good. What about if we're going to keep track of a student's age? What would be a good data type? Integer. What if we wanted to keep track of, let's see, how about their address? String. What about their GPA? Floating point. So I wouldn't want to use an integer, right? Because we could have a decimal part. Very good. What about if I wanted to keep track of whether they were actively enrolled or not? Boolean, I could keep track of it that way. One that I could use, how about sex? Character. A lot of people, it's funny, a lot of people say, or used to say, it's interesting how things change, that Boolean would be good for sex. And we can't do that because you can't, it's not obvious as to which sex would be true and which sex would be false, right? Where if we use the character data, we can be very specific on, you know, male, female, other, whatever we want to do with that character data. And our true false wouldn't give us that capability. So all of these data types, we're going to find out that when the computer knows what kind of data it's going to store in memory in that variable, it can access that data faster and easier than if it doesn't know what kind of data it's storing. So if I tell the computer I'm going to create a variable and I want it to be a string, the system can automatically start putting some memory aside to hold that string data. Now, concatenation is the idea where we add multiple items together that are not numbers. So if I want to write out this, the output is 1 and 2 and 3. Take a look at that really close. Notice that I have double quote, closing double quote. The plus sign is outside of the double quotes. My number 1 is outside, another plus, and then the word and has the double quotes around it. The next plus sign is outside of the double quotes. So really pay attention how that's formatted and notice how we can keep adding many, many, many things together. Wherever the number 1 and 2 and 3 is, I could replace that with a variable name at that point if I wanted to. Now another important point, that's here just our ending notes, ending points, is camelback notation. You'll hear some different naming, different terms, but basically camelback notation is where I start with an uppercase letter every new word. So number 1, first name. Camelback means that I'm kind of highlighting that new word by making it uppercase. Now what I was taught is that this is upper camelback, this is lower camelback. But in our textbook, I think they refer to this lower camelback as the only version. Let's see. And then right here we have another convention where there is an underscore between the words. That's also something that some people like to do. So finally, with all of our power out and quality time we got to spend together, to solve a problem, we must know what the problem is. Problem solving involves communicating with others. And a good way to document an algorithm or potential problem is by using pseudocode. All pseudocode is a list of steps that will be taken by a program and pseudocode should be readable by both your technical and non-technical audiences. And this is an important point because that means I need to be able to take this pseudocode to the payroll person, to the accounts payable person, whoever it is that I'm working with on this project, and say, is this correct? Does this seem right to you? And we want them to be able to understand what they're looking at to say, oh yeah, I think that's going to get everything. That should be pretty clear. Okay, it's not quite our lab time, but we're going to start on a lab where we're going to create our own pseudocode. So once you guys take a break, let's come back at 8:50. So that's about 6 minutes, and then we'll do some pseudocode together for our lab time. Most everybody's back. Let's get started here. So what I'm going to do first is the music purchase program. The software that I'd like to use for just typing in our pseudocode, we could use Word or whatever because we're just typing in text. But Word is really hard to use because it'll fight against us, and as we try to format things, it'll change it. So let's use Notepad++, which should be on all of these computers. So we don't want the regular Notepad, but Notepad++. Now, when you're using Notepad++, a couple of things, it will keep several files available or open for you in tabs up here. So right now, I just have this new one that doesn't have anything in it that I'm just getting started with. So I can save that file if I wanted to, or start a new one. Across the top, you'll see it has standard toolbars and things. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit. I know there's a way. There it goes. Try to get where you can see it. All right, I want to save my file first. So I'm going to save this file to my OneDrive. So I'm going to go to this PC. Now, under your network locations, is it showing up there? Your OneDrive? Because mine,
No,
I have an O drive, an S drive.
do you, because I'm not seeing it. Let's see.
I thought if you just saved it to the desktop, it automatically would be in our OneDrive.
Would it?
Yeah.
On your desktop? I think that, I thought the
Yeah,
desktop
every
stayed.
time
Top
I
of
access
OneDrive is
OneDrive,
the first one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
It's on my desktop, it's there.
I'm going to use this drop down. And I think that that's fine if you're on your desktop, good. Go ahead and create a folder. I'll go to my OneDrive and into my documents because I have my CIS120 folder. Excuse me. Now for me, I'm going to create a new folder for this semester, my SP20 folder, and I'll go into it. Now, what I want to name this file, and it's not like critical that you name it this way, but it seems easier to find things if we start out naming with our chapter, just to kind of keep things in order. And in our class, we might come back to this new price card or music price program later and actually write it in Python or something. So it's nice if we keep the chapter number in our file name so that when we come back to it later, we'll have it again. So this is going to be the music purchase program, and this is going to be our pseudocode. So I'm just going to name it Chapter 1, Music Purchase Pseudo. We want to put some comments. We always want to do in-line documentation, in-stream documentation in our code. And most programming languages allow 2 slashes to indicate a comment line. So I'm going to follow that same idea with my pseudocode. And I'm going to say this is the music purchase program. And put your name here. And then our date. Every time I type it, I'm going to hear Barbara Walter say 2020. Okay. And we're just going to say this program will allow the purchase of songs. Now, I want to put comments in my pseudocode for the same reason I want to put comments in my program code, so that when I haven't looked at it for 6 months and I come back and look at it, I can easily see what's going on without having to analyze all the code and reevaluate it to figure out what I've got. So I'll leave a blank comment, and then I'm going to have another comment that's going to be, I want to declare, whoops, can't get my fingers on the right keys. declare our variables. Now, excuse me, for our song purchase program, they've given us a lot of information. So we know that we need to ask our user how many songs they want to purchase. So we're going to need a variable that's going to hold our number of songs. So they called it songs in our book. So in my pseudocode, when I need to set up a variable, I'm going to use this keyword declare. So I'm going to say declare this variable. So songs is my variable name that could change as a data type. So what data type would we want to declare our songs? Integer? I think integer would be perfect. So we'll just abbreviate that and say we want it to be an int. Now, we want to declare another variable, and this variable, we want to know how much the whole thing is going to be. And in the examples, they named that variable dollar price. So dollar price, this is going to be our output of how much everything's going to cost. So do we want this to be an int or a float? Float. Perfect. So we've got our variables declared. Now the computer can put aside memory to hold that data so they can keep track of it for us. So I'm going to put another comment. And on this comment, I'm going to say we're going to now prompt for input. To prompt for input, we're going to use the write command. And it's not really a command, it's a pseudocode thing. But we're going to say we want to write out this message, enter the number of songs you wish to purchase. Now, if you are a slower typer, you don't have to make that whole prompt if you want to shorten it a little bit. As long as you start it and end it with double quotes, you can make it as short or as long as you want to inside there. So we don't need you to be doing typing practice. Bless you. So how many songs do you want? Now the next thing is we're going to read user input into our songs variable. So to do that, we're going to use that input statement, and we're going to say we want to read songs. So now we've asked our user how many songs they want. We've prompted them. They've told us. We can now figure out what the cost is going to be. So let's calculate the total cost. So the variable that I want to update is dollar price. So I'm going to set dollar price. Now I want to set dollar price equal to something, and I want to make it equal to the number of songs they want times 99 cents each. And then we can write out our answer. Now, when I write out the answer, I'm going to put a nice explanation. The price of your purchase is, and then I'm going to use the concatenation character, the plus sign, to add our dollar price variable. Now, whenever Notepad++ pops up like this with suggestions, it's doing recognition, and as you type in things, it recognizes them and asks you if you want to type that. You can use your arrow key to select the right thing and press enter or tab, or I'm sure 57 other keys to pop that into your code. So if I want dollar price to end up in there, I used my arrow key to select it, when I press enter, it'll put dollar price into my code. So I'm not as fast as it looks. Right? So you can get super fast. Now, after our dollar price, we'd like to say something nice. You know how you always need to label those things? Did you ever get in trouble in math class for not saying how many units or what type of units? We can have the same thing happen when we're coding in our program. So we're going to say that this is dollars. Now, after we know more, we would be able to put a dollar sign in front of that dollar price and format it all pretty. But at our level, we're just going to say it's in dollars so that they can get it. Now I've got this. I'm going to save it. And here's one of the reasons that it's nice to have Discord, because I can just go ahead, bless you. I'll just drag and drop that pseudocode onto our Discord channel. So that way, if typing is an issue or something, then you can grab it. Now, one caveat about that, when you're in a programming class and we're doing hands-on things, if you don't follow along, you'll get really bored and you won't get as much experience as if you try. So this is for if you tried really hard, but you couldn't quite keep up, or you'd like to make sure yours matches what I did, or any of those kinds of things. I want to make it available to you. But don't forget, if you just take what I give you and don't try it on your own, it'll be super boring and you won't learn a lot. So, all right, perfect. So can you find that on Discord? See if you can grab it. Make sure you know how to get it. Can't see it? So remember in Discord, is everybody joined? I see most everybody. Oh, that's why you can't see it. It failed. Hang on, let me try again. Sometimes I have to kill Discord and start it back up to get it to do things. So if you ever run into that, in Task Manager over here, if you find Discord and quit and then start it again, that seems to make the firewall happy with it again, or whatever it is that's blocking. And it just happens once in a while, and it seems to happen to us instructors more than it does to you guys, so you might not have it happen. Some other people have gotten it for us. Yay. See how they were able to do it, and I just wasn't. All right. Okay, so let's look at our pseudocode again. I'm going to start out, and I'm going to be the play actor. I'm not a very good actor. But I'm going to be the computer here, and I want to execute or desk check my pseudocode. So as I set things up to desk check, I'm going to start at the very beginning. And I'm going to see, oh, okay, first thing I need to do is declare a variable song as an integer. So that means it's going to start out with a value of 0. I'll just put that up on my memory board. Then I am allocating a dollar price variable. And it's a float, so it's going to start out at 0.00, something along those lines. All right, so now as the computer, I've got my memory allocated, and I'm ready to start executing my program. So I could walk up to somebody and say, tell me the number of songs you wish to purchase. How many songs would you like? How many? 90. Oh, dang, she made that hard for me. Okay, so she wants 90. So now my songs variable is going to be set to 90. Right? So I just input that from her. So I read my songs. So now I've got to do this math. 99 cents times 90. At least you gave me a 0 at the end. Thank goodness, because I might not be able to figure it out. What is that, 81, 89? Oh my goodness, that sounds about right. So now I'm saying, oh, my dollar price is 8910, because I just did this math calculation. So as the computer now, I'm going to write this out and write it out to her. Oh, the price of your purchase is $89.10, okay? So as I'm acting computer, I can desk check my code, my pseudocode, right? So I don't have any other way to check it. It's just pseudo, it's just pretend, but I can desk check it. And that looks like it worked. I was able to get information from her. I was able to make the calculation and give her the answer back. So I think that my pseudocode is good. Now there's one thing in there that I don't like. Do you know what that is? That 99 cents. Shouldn't we make that a variable that is a constant that doesn't ever change? Don't we know that that 99 cents is going to be something that we use? We shouldn't have this in our code.
We should call it price per song.
Price per song, that's a good variable name. Let's do that. So I want to declare that. Now I like that variable name, but it's kind of long. So I'm going to do PP song. Oops. And we said if it was going to be a constant, we would have to name it all in uppercase. PP song as float equal to 99 cents. Now, where would I change that in my calculation?
Set dollar price to songs times 0.9 times set dollar price to songs times PP song.
Perfect. And this is so much better because now if we keep getting longer here, we've got more going on. We've got to ask some other questions and things like that. And we use our PP song variable again. If our management decides, oh, that's not enough, we want to change our song price now to $1.99. Now we just have to change it in this one place. If we had kept coding it, you know, in our code, we would have to change it in all those other places. And that might be easy. We might just be able to do a find all on 0.99 and change it. But what if there was some other reason somebody had put 0.99 in our program and it wasn't the price of the song? We could get everything all messed up. So using a constant is always the best idea. That looks great. Let's save it. And let's start a new one. So in Notepad++, I can just say File New, and it'll keep that tab open for my old pseudocode. And that's great because I might want to copy something from it. And I'm going to save my new file then. And let's see which one we want to do. In our textbook, at the end of the chapter, they have some programming exercises. So I would like to do this one that says, write a program that converts a temperature input in degrees Celsius into degrees Fahrenheit and displays both. So it tells us in the textbook we're going to need a float variable for Celsius and a float variable for Fahrenheit. Okay, so let's name this thing Chapter 1, Temp Conversion. And I want some comments. So I'm going to start out saying that this is a temperature conversion. And my name. Okay, so we want to declare our variables. And I'm just going to grab these ones out of the book. So remember, sometimes they're going to have all this information for you to use. So they want us to use Celsius as float and Fahrenheit. And that'll be a good way for you to start using Notepad++'s IntelliSense so that you don't have to type Fahrenheit over and over. Because I think that's like the worst word to spell ever. All right, let's prompt. So we want to ask for a temperature in Celsius. Enter temp in Celsius. And if you notice, I'm putting a space after the word before the double quote. And that's so that in theory, if a user were typing something in, they wouldn't be squished right up to my S, because otherwise, if I don't put a space, they might be squished right up there. Okay, now that we've got them prompted, let's read in their answer. And we wanted to read that into our Celsius variable, because that's what we asked them for. Now, in the textbook, they give us the calculation to come up with our answer. So we'll calculate the Fahrenheit value. So we want to set our Fahrenheit variable equal to, this is a worse calculation, 9 divided by 5, or 9/5, times that Celsius number plus 32. So for this calculation, since we have so many different numbers, we won't try to create constant values for all of those. But if we worked for, you know, the Weather Channel or someplace where we were doing this thing like quite often, then we would probably want to go to that trouble to create those constant values. Since we're just doing a quick calculation and there's so many of them, we'll just leave them in our code. But now we need to output our answer. So we're going to write out Celsius temp of and then I want the value of my Celsius variable. Oops, and it looks like I typed it wrong. I've got to fix that. Celsius temp. So I want Celsius temp of plus my Celsius value, and then I'm going to add more, is so I'm going to try to make it say Celsius temp of whatever our Celsius temperature was is our Fahrenheit temperature, and then lastly the degrees Fahrenheit. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see that better. You see it? So kind of a long answer. And that'll make more sense when we start programming and you can actually see the output. So let's save that. And now if you want to desk check it on your own without asking somebody else, if you had a piece of paper or just in your head, you would write down these two variables. So my variables would be Celsius and Fahrenheit. And they're both float. So in most programming languages, they're going to start out as 0. Then I would prompt, please enter the temperature in Celsius and input that. Now, if my Celsius temperature is, what do I want, 100? Is that something that means something? 100, and I would go through this calculation and come out with my Fahrenheit answer. Let you guys do the calculation. Sorry, I'm not going to do that right now. Does that look right? Looks like we've got everything. So you can kind of think about input, process, output. That's what we usually want to do when we're programming. Input something, process it, and then output it. So let's look at that assignment that you guys had for some pseudocode. Let's see, it should look much easier now than it did the other day. See if I can get this one out here. See if it'll actually let me do anything. Yeah, try to. Oh, everybody's got it. It'll let you guys. Perfect. So this pseudocode is out here. Your introduction of Peer 1, I think everybody's got that turned in. Make sure you turned it in. And I will be checking to make sure you have your Discord account when I'm grading that one. So make sure you've got yourself set up on Discord and are part of our class group. But here's the pseudocode that we're working on right now. That's a lot like the one we just did, huh? That should make it easy. I tried to pick one that we hadn't done, and I thought, oh, this one looks good, so I'll do it. So see if you can just put it in the right order based on that pseudocode we just did. It should be super easy. Now, because that one is on OneDrive, my OneDrive, when you get done with it and you have it in the right order, just go ahead and click Submit in Canvas, and it'll have the copy that you've updated, so you don't have to worry about submitting a different version of the document or anything like that. Now, I'll give you a few minutes to work on that, but before, let's take a look at the Chapter 1 review questions. A lot of you have them done. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with these. This is set up through Office 365 using an Excel form. So it works really good for me, but unfortunately, it doesn't give you guys a lot of feedback. So when you come down to the end, when you click Submit here, that's all I need. you're done. But Canvas might keep griping at you about the assignment. So let me know if it does that. When I go through and grade it, I'll make Canvas know that it's all completed and all done. So last semester, we even went so far as I hid some of them in Canvas till I got them graded so they wouldn't be bothering everybody. So let me know if it's making you crazy. Now, if you submit once, it's going to go blank. And that's going to make you think that it didn't work. But you should get an email that tells you that it got submitted. And I just changed that setting this morning because this one for some reason wasn't emailing you guys. But don't worry about it because I will let you know if yours is missing, especially these first few. Now, as you go through and answer questions, you can leave this screen on Canvas. When you come back, they will still be there. It's just once you submit that submit button that your answers will go away and you won't be able to see them anymore. A lot of people like to just go ahead and write their answers down on something else and then just copy them into this form to get them submitted because it does give you that kind of weird feeling like they just disappeared and it won't let you see them anymore, which is kind of dumb. So anyways, that's why it is that way. All right, how's everybody? Any questions? Feel good? I think we're in good shape. You have a lot that's due tonight, so we're gonna go right now and just break up and let you work on all of that stuff. So let's review beforehand. Your introduction of peers should already be submitted. That was what we did last week when you introduced somebody else. Make sure, like I said, you've got your Discord account set up. You're gonna get the reorder the pseudocode done before you leave, so you don't have to worry about that one. The review questions, like I said, a lot of you already have those done. I think the majority of people already have the syllabus quiz done. So any of those things that you need to finish up, let's get those done today. You are welcome to leave and get them done later, but if you get them done before you leave, you won't have to worry about them anymore. And then when we come back next time, we will look at binary and find my office. So I think that should be good. Any questions about anything?
What did you want us to put on the Discord?
Just your name, just so you've connected to that CIS120 channel.
Should we submit our two things that we've just written here to use them?
No, those are for you, just for your votes. Just keep those. So you know how to do pseudocode. Good question. Anybody else? Anything? All right, great. I will see you Thursday. Get all that stuff done before you get out of here. I'm going to end our Zoom meeting and I'll get those posted.